Hello, everyone. Welcome. Rising Eagle speaks tonight. Thank you for coming. I am Yolonda Steward, Global Consultancy. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special guest, Ambika Walker. She will be speaking to you, GED to doctorate degree. Whoa. How does that sound? Did you guys hear that? GED to doctorate degree. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Miss Ambika, Miss Walker in. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, I'm doing well.
It's so good to see you, Mrs. Walker, in your beautiful shining red.
It's a power move. So
I am going to have you to introduce yourself to our guests.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ambika Walker. I am a doctoral student at the University of Maryland University College. They changed the name, so I'm sorry. Global College. I am in my last year, 9 months out from graduation. So I am in the thick of writing my dissertation, and it is a journey in itself, and a headache and frustration and all that. But we'll get into that stuff. I look forward to just telling you my story, and hopefully you'll have some great questions that I can answer. And if I could just help one of you guys, one of you ladies, with anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks, Yolanda.
Thank you so much. That is awesome. So GED to doctorate degree. Wow. That is amazing. And you have to have a story. There has to be a story behind that. So where do we start? So let's see. So you're at the point now where you're going for your doctorate degree. Doctorate degree in what?
So it is a doctorate degree in management. So it's a DM, and the concentration is in community college policy and administration.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about how you got there. Like, what made you decide to go for your doctorate degree?
So during my math, first of all, this was never my goal. Not when I was younger, not when I graduated my associates, not when I graduated with my bachelor's. And towards the end of my master's, literally like right after graduation, then it popped in my head that maybe I might want to go forward after the master's. But as I was working within higher ed, I just decided that, the environment that I wanted to be in, which is higher ed, you really need, if you're going to move up the title and ranks, you're probably going to need a PhD, a doctoral degree, to be able to secure those jobs, because that's the environment, that's the industry, and what it calls for. And so throughout my time, within the last 3.5 years, I really thought about one of my advisors in my master's program. She told me, Dr. Faye Prather, wonderful, inspiring professor at SUNY Brockport. Once I graduated, she said, Ambika, you know what? Whenever you decide to move on to your doctoral degree, don't do it right this minute. Give yourself some time. Go out there and get some experience working in the real world. Be able to go through some challenges at work, learn new things at work, wherever you may be. And then in about 3 years, then go ahead and use those skills and apply to a program that you feel that would be a good fit for where you're trying to go, your ultimate goal. And so almost to the T, 3.5 years later, it popped in my head that, it was time for me to go down that journey. And it wasn't easy to make that decision, but I did.
Awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned the associate's degree. So you had, and then bachelor's,
Yes.
and then master's.
Yes.
And then there was a break. and then
Yep.
doctorate. Now,
Yes.
what about before that? Was there a break between the associates, the bachelor's, and the master's?
No, I went full on because I had started the associates 10 years after leaving high school. I had this sense of urgency that once I made my mind up to start, I went to Monroe Community College in Rochester, New York. And so once I started that program, I began to love the criminal justice program, which is what I went for. And I decided that, you know what, I kept thinking that I lost 10 years of my life. And now here I am, older though, going to get my associates. So now I'm not stopping. Now my goal was I switched gears to I'm just gonna go. Cause I'm the type of person, if I stop something, I'm probably not gonna come back to it. And I know how life gets us by the neck and throw us against the wall. And a lot of us stop out sometimes and then we never go back in. And so I decided that once I started and after I graduated, that's it. So from semester to semester with no breaks, I went from the associates to the bachelor's to the master's.
Oh, so all the way through.
All the
And
way through.
so I mean, what was that like? Like when you first started with the associate's degree, how did that feel? Like being out of school, you said 10 years. What was that like for you?
First of all, I hated it the first week, only because because in high school I didn't. When I was really really younger, coming from Trinidad, because I am from Trinidad, to the United States, school was it. You know, the Caribbean schooling system is very strict. You have to. School is what you're gonna do. And so when I came up here, I excelled in middle school. And once I got to high school, I kind of just lost interest in school and got caught up with the wrong crowd. Made it to the 12th grade, and in 1997, when I was supposed to graduate, that same year in like May or June, that January I dropped out. So literally a couple months before graduation. And the reason why I dropped out was because I had lost all zeal, all desire to be in the high school, you know, with the students that was there. Some of my friends had already graduated, so now I kind of felt a little bit lonely. Plus, I was just following the wrong crowd. I skipped school. I did all the things that someone who was just going down the wrong path could do. I did that. Ended up getting kicked out of the city school district, went to the school that they normally send the bad kids to, which was at that time Josh Lofton, and went there, ended up not going because it's like you're not going to school at all. It's just a school with just nothing but kids who just went down the wrong path. So why would you put all of us in the same environment? So I just didn't even bother that, and just decided that I'm gonna get my GED. And so I actually got my GED that summer of my graduating year. And then 10 years of me just working regular jobs, just day to day, hanging out on the streets, dealing with folks that I probably shouldn't have dealt with, not listening to my parents, just doing my own thing, thinking I'm gonna be successful somehow, believing in the street life that it was gonna elevate me somehow, and it didn't do anything but hurt me and set me back. But the reality is I did learn a lot of just that street life. I learned so much that it made me who I am. So finally, speeding up 10 years after, I decided one day I was at my rock bottom, didn't have anything, still was on the bus, had cars, but messed those up, couldn't save because didn't know how to save, just didn't really, have respect for life itself, and decided that, you know what, let me just apply to MCC. And what program should I apply to? Well, I thought, been arrested before, was on probation before, so let me try criminal justice. I mean, like, visited folks in jail before, know all about that. And so I applied and got accepted into the criminal justice program and decided that that's what I was going to do. end up loving it because just the curriculum and the class and the environment was really inspiring, and I kind of already knew some of it because I had been through the system to a certain extent.
Wow. So well, you shared a lot. You shared a lot. You shared a lot. You shared a lot. But you have not, I would imagine you were not on this journey alone. So you talked about, coming here from Trinidad to the States and starting school in middle school. Initially, you said you love school. So let's talk about family life back then. So you came here with who? Who did you come to the
I
States?
came to New York with my mom. My dad was already here. So my mom and my two sisters. I'm sorry, two sisters. I'm the second child, and then my brother. He wasn't. Cause I have three siblings. He's younger and he's American, so he was born here way after we arrived. So it was just three of us that moved up, and then my dad was already here, and then we built our own little family here. Didn't have family in Rochester, so it was really just us, and struggle my way through just being, isolated from home, isolated from my friends, because I was 11 years old when I arrived. And so now going to a school, now I have an accent, so that alone is like a lot of pressure, people not understanding, respect for culture, respect for language and all that. So it was really tough on me and my sisters, just coming to a place and being able to thrive in it. But we learned quickly, we assimilated quickly. But really, my mom and my dad was the ones who really kind of like had our backs and just supported us for the majority of the time.
And so, what about school? Like, was that something that mom and dad talked to you about? Like, or
No,
how did they? No, okay.
because they did it. So my mom and dad, none of them are high school graduates, and so they didn't know what a credit was. Like a class credit. They didn't know what financial aid was. They didn't know a lot of things that some, not all, because even peers who have grown up here and went to high school and middle school, and college, some of us are adults and still don't know some of the languages and the verbiage that we think of and we talk of in higher ed. But
Right. Yeah.
they didn't know anything in regards to telling me, okay, so we're gonna go to MTC, we're gonna do this first, and then we're gonna do this second, and then I'm gonna take you to the advising center. They didn't know any of that, so I had to navigate all of that, on my own and figure it out. So I had to learn to ask questions, no matter what I did, I didn't know what was next. So I had no other choice but to ask questions.
Okay. So even though they didn't know, how did they feel when you dropped out of high school? Like, did they say anything to you about that?
My
Or
mom was totally upset. She was totally upset. And I told her, so, people tend to impact our lives. There was a counselor, a high school counselor, and I would never forget her name, and an older female. And she told me, she was like, Ambika, at the rate you're going, you might as well drop out because you're not going to graduate. And once she said that, I left school thinking like, yes, that was the release I needed because she actually pushed me in a spot that I wasn't supposed to go down, being the ignorant young person, just going again down the wrong path. Sometimes people give you that little push, and you're like, yes, that's what I needed. I need a little pity party, so I'm gonna jump on it. And so once she said that, when I went back home that afternoon, I remember specifically telling my mom what the counsel said, and she didn't understand why would she say that to you, but I wasn't mad. I was like, yes, I don't have to go to school anymore because she said it. And that's really one of the things that stuck with me because I often think about, what if this woman had told me, Ambika, come in my office. Let's sit down. What is going on? Why are you
Right.
like the way you are? What, is there something I can help you with? Can I connect you with something in the community that, can I connect you with a counselor? Can I connect you with something, 'cause let me talk to your parents. Let's see what we can do. You're not from here, so, from this country, so let's see what we can do in regards to getting you set up with maybe extra tutoring. She just straight up said, you might as well drop out.
Well, let's stop right there because you brought up a point and you shared something that all too often I know I've heard stories like that where you had that counselor that told you that you weren't going to do well, and unfortunately, right? And like you just said, what if she would have said the opposite? What if she would have pulled you into her office and said, you know what, Ambika? I don't like some of the things that I'm seeing, but I see potential in you and you can do it. And this is what an education can do for you. Right. And then maybe the whole everything would have looked different, as you just said. Right. But instead, it was like, well, you know what? She fed into what you were thinking and what you were feeling and how you were operating. It worked for you.
Right.
But you said something. You said your mom didn't understand it.
No, she didn't.
She didn't understand that. Was there anything? Tell me a little bit more about that.
As someone who works for the high school, that's counter to what they're there for. They should be
Right.
encouraging students. And for example, we both worked in higher ed, and so our job is, no matter what that student, what problem or what issue they come to and walk into our office, our job is to put aside whatever and encourage them, even
Absolutely.
though it might look terrible. Maybe they might owe thousands of dollars of tuition, or maybe they don't have transportation, or maybe they don't have food. It's our job to connect them to the things that they need and the resources, because at the end of the day, that student is somebody. They may not be our relatives or our friends or whatever, but they're still somebody, and they still have a whole life ahead of them. So who am I to tell this person, you should just drop out because you're already doing bad, you're already failing, you should just drop out?
Wow. So wow. Well, you have to be very proud of yourself now, where you are.
Yes.
Your story is truly amazing. So in those 10 years, share something with us that at some point it was just like, that's it. I mean, you kind of said at that point, and 10 years later, you said, that's it, I'm going to school. But was it something like specifically that you went through or that you experienced, or or just something you thought about, or you thought back to school? Or was it that counselor that you thought back to, or
I believe that, it was just a time, how you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I looked at my life, and, I knew that I am a leader. Even from a young age, I knew that, but somehow I lost that. I lost that and got wrapped up in just the world and the street life, and that was glorified. I glorified that. I loved hanging out. I loved being on the block. Anybody who knows me, the old version of Ambika would tell you, where would I be at? Who would I be with? Who would I be dealing with? And what kind of things, we would do or whatever. And so, I just got sick and tired of that. And then I think at one point I figured out, thank God, that I figured out that this is not going to get me anywhere. The reality is, I'm not going to be somebody successful or somebody famous or a leader by just being here on the block, hanging out with these folks who, it's just a depressing whole vibe. You just out there, you having a good time for that moment. But at the end of the day, what are you doing? How are you impacting the lives of others? How are you helping yourself and your family? If you don't have, if you don't have any potential, then your family, they're gonna lack that too. Because at the end of the day, we're always somebody's role model. whether it be in our household or on the streets or at school or wherever. And so I think I just got sick and tired of being just regular, and I decided that I'm going to try the school thing, which again, my mindset was that I hate school. The last time I was in school, I hated it, which was high school.
So
now, speed it up to the 10 years, now going back to MCC, that first week, I tried everything I could to talk myself out of going back the second week. Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But you stayed.
I stayed. I stayed. Yeah.
You stayed. Not only did you stay at MCC and you graduated from MCC, where did you transfer to? Where'd you go after that? Tell us about that.
After that, summer 2008, once I graduated, I went to John Jay College of Criminal Justice in Manhattan, New York, and because I really wanted to go to my associates in criminal justice. I applied to do the International Criminal Justice Program at John Jay. That was right when the recession happened. So 2008, 2009, moved back to New York City, lived with my aunt, both in Queens and Long Island, and just, caught the train every day, went to, school every day. Couldn't find a job because, again, that was right when the recession happened. So after a while, the student loans wasn't paying enough bills. Eventually, I moved out of my own, found an apartment. It would be where, I would have to really make sure that I'm spending my money wisely to be able to eat, and maybe I'm having peanut butter and jelly or a pack of ramen noodles or a bologna sandwich, because if I spend this money, then I can't buy a Metro card, I can't get to school, I can't have lunch at school, So I had to really, really, cut back and struggle. And so one of my friends who went to Brockport, we happened to be talking, and she said, Ambika, there's nothing wrong with you coming back home. She said, call your mom and ask her. There's nothing wrong with coming back home. Your dream was to go to John Jay, and, the only thing that didn't work out was the living arrangements because you can't find a job. But you can still do the criminal justice program at Brockport. Look into it. And so literally, without missing any semesters, I transferred from John Jay right back to Rochester. And again, my support system, my mom and dad, they were happy to have me back, and they really supported me throughout that time by giving me a place to stay. And I was able to focus on, just completing that bachelor's and then moving on right to the master's.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about what those degrees were able to do for you.
So with the criminal justice degree, my intention was to somehow either work for the criminal justice system, or, more so Department of Homeland Security. And I never wanted to be a police officer. So that's why people assume when you get a criminal justice degree, that's what you want to do. And it's not really that. You can go into anything within the system. And so because I knew that it was going to take a while for me to try to get into the Department of Homeland Security, because I had been looking at jobs online on the federal website. I didn't have the experience, and certain things. I decided to move on to my master's, and right as I was doing my bachelor's, the things that I did while I was getting my associates at MCC helped me to get a job at MCC. So when I was at MCC, I became very involved in the student government organization. I did lots of stuff on campus. I got active on campus. And
so just for our audience, MCC is a community college, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's a 2-year college. And so by getting involved on campus, I was able to build really great relationships with the staff and faculty, and just be mentored by them. A lot of them didn't even know that they was mentoring me, but I looked up to them as mentors. And from building those relationships, and also being the president of the student government at the downtown campus, I was able to create such an impact for the campus and the students that my first job and a series of other jobs leading from that it was because someone called me from the faculty and staff and said, "Hey, Ambika, we have this grant coming up, or we have this program coming up. Would you like to interview for it? Apply to the job. We can't promise you anything, but apply, and then we'll see how it goes." And so luckily, I was able to secure those positions, and I just worked my way up. I started off as a student worker. I worked the photo ID. If you came back in the days and got a photo ID, it was me taking a picture. If you checked in into the fitness center, I was the one sitting at the table. And then years after, I end up supervising those operations, the fitness center, the wellness center. And so it kind of came back full circle, but it was really because I got involved on campus. Those relationships are so important. People think I'm gonna go to school and then I'm gonna leave and go home, or I'm gonna go and do whatever I need to do and just leave. But the benefits of working on campus, even as an internship or a student leader or a volunteer, you get to meet those staff members. You get to meet sometimes the president, the vice presidents, everyone. And if you're doing good work and you're making an impression on you're showing them you have leadership skills and creating this great impression on others, they will remember you because they know these students excel. That's one thing. There's way more good folks in higher ed. You might hear little stories about, oh, well, this person is this way, but there's way more good people in the world, period, than bad folks, So to me, I was just very much supported, and I was able to just move up the ladder.
I love that you brought that up. That is so important because so many people, especially adult learners, right? Because we have so many things that's going on in our lives, right? We have, children and jobs and so many other things in addition to school. So it's hard to sometimes get connected. But wherever you can get connected, it's just an awesome thing because you're just adding more skills to your resume and you're making those connections. And who knows, like you said, what can happen when you make those connections, right? So for you got a job, and it sounds like one job led to another job. And so that job is an opportunity that leads to another opportunity that leads into another one. And that is so awesome. That is awesome. So what are you doing now, right? So you work on your doctorate. Tell us a little bit about where you are right now and how's the doctorate going, the program?
In regards to career, I just voluntarily separated from Monroe Community College. It was an offer that they made to several folks in the college, and I decided to voluntarily do it because it has given what this separation from work has given me is the time to focus on this last 8 to 9 months, where it is the toughest part because now you're in full-fledged writing mode. Now you're working through 5 chapters at UMGC. Our dissertation is 5 chapters. And so you're not just writing, you're writing, submitting, getting feedback, making changes. For example, on my first chapter, I went through 9 revisions. So that's 9 times I changed chapter 1. And not everything you change, but you make small revisions. Sometimes it's large revisions. Sometimes it's restating one statement or framework or something like that. The reality is that you're not just writing, you're also researching, writing, changing things, changing the format, changing the questions. And so that takes time on top of the time it takes for you to put things together into a chapter. So now you're talking about 5 chapters and 5 times you're going to go through that process. And within those process, now you're stretching it out again into revisions and all that. So, I kept thinking like, how am I going to do this? I got 2 kids, a husband, I work at MCC. How am I going to do all this stuff at the same time? And then it really was a blessing to me, being a woman of God. It really was God's grace that led to this point where the college offered it due to, just financial things going on, just as any other organization with the pandemic. And so I jumped at it. Once they offered it, I jumped at it. And now I feel like I'd have no regrets. You know how sometimes you might leave a job and you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have took this offer. You know, I have no regrets at all, because what it has given me is the time, the total concentration I need to be able to work on those things. And not everybody has that liberty of doing that. So I do feel honored and I do feel blessed to have that time.
Yeah, that is really awesome. And you mentioned the pandemic. I mean, there's so many people that lost their jobs, and or their jobs just have been impacted in so many ways as a result of COVID-19 and the pandemic. So, but it sounds like it's working for you. That is awesome. And you mentioned your family. You mentioned the husband and your children. How, as a doctoral student, how has being in school impacted your family life, or how are they being impacted? So you and your family, right? So how's that been?
It has definitely taken a toll on them. I think in a positive way. At first, I felt, you being also a new doctoral student, you go through a phase of feeling guilty, because as a parent, as a mother, your job is to, take your kids to school, provide food, do homework, give baths, make sure everything is set for the next morning. And it's a nonstop in between you doing what you need to do. And on top of that, you have a husband, so there are certain things you need to do. And so all that wrapped up in one, when you decide to do something else like the doctoral program and start this big new journey, now you're taking time out of their stuff to do what you want, but there's guilt that comes with that. So I remember taking a shower one day within my first class. I was having just a pure breakdown, and my husband, he was like, "Are you crying?" And I was like, "No, I'm not crying." And I was. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I feel like I don't have time. I feel like I'm telling the kids all the time to be quiet if I'm working at home, was really often. I'm constantly telling them, be quiet. Go back in your room. Go ask daddy for whatever you want." I remember me sitting at a desk in my living room, just working away at a paper, and my husband was in the kitchen, just cooking or whatever. My kids is playing, but they know to be quiet. And it dawned on me, I was like, oh my God, this is the time I normally spend with my kids and my husband, but I can't, because I'm over here so deep into what I'm doing, and I felt guilty. And so after a while, my husband, he really did a good job at, kind of calming me down. He kept saying, "I got you." Literally, that's all he would say. When I would have those panic moments, because it happened quite a few times, he would say, "Babe, just breathe. I got you." He's like, "I got the kids. You don't worry. Go back to work or wherever you need to go to get that quiet time. Sometimes you can't really work at home. You can't do homework at home because it's too much going on. And so I need pure silence when I'm doing work." And so, sometimes I went to the coffee shop, or I would go to, Tim Hortons, or anywhere there was a comfortable, safe environment with Wi-Fi. I would go and I would get some work done on some nights. And just knowing and being comforted that he has my back, and knowing that he didn't feel like I was doing anything, because I had in my head where I'm neglecting them, but they didn't see it that way. It was me that saw it that way. Nobody said, "Hey, Ambika, hey, mommy, you're neglecting me." They never said that. But as a woman, you feel like that. And so I had to learn to put aside myself and my thoughts to be able to say, you know what, this is going to benefit them. And I call it the airplane theory. So on the airplane, right, they always tell you, parents, you put your mask on first before you put your kids' mask on. And the reason why I never understood, why would they tell us, the parents, to put our mask on first, when in reality, if something happened, I'm putting my kids' mask on first. But the concept behind that is that you have to be good so your kids could be good. If you're not good, your kids are not good. And so, yeah, you have to put the mask on to breathe, to make sure that they can breathe after. But you have to be good. If you're passed out because you didn't put that mask on, then how are you putting the mask on them? So you
I
have to
love
take
that.
care of
Wow.
you. Yes, it took me a while to get that.
I love that.
But I connected it, and once I connected it, I was like, oh my God. And Vika, I had a lot of self-talk. I also did a lot of self-talk. Stop. I had to stop myself from thinking and making up things that really wasn't there. No one said that I was neglecting. I thought that. And so my husband said he got me. I need to go do what I need to do and stop thinking and creating this wall around me. And so ever since, he's been holding me down. My kids, the good thing about them seeing us work and do homework at home, guess what they started doing? Bringing their little writing pad or getting their, devices and drawing or doing homework. They know what it is. They understand it. And so there is benefits coming out of that I didn't have to tell them, all about doing homework and all that. It's just by nature, by them seeing me, again, a role model doing it, and it kind of rubs off on them, which is, just great for the entire family, for our unit.
That is so awesome. That's awesome that you have a supportive family, and that's very important. That's so important. Tell us where you are right now. You don't mind sharing.
So because, I'm no longer employed at the college, I used to use, my office sometimes after work. I would go home, fix dinner or help out at home, then come back late at night and do some work at the job site. But because I don't have that anymore, I decided to rent an office space. And there's a place called Metro Cowork. So now the new thing, the trend is that you have these companies that is renting buildings or like office spaces, multiple spaces, and you can actually rent out some of that space, whether it be a community place where it's like five or six, different work areas in an open space. And then there's semi-private where you get a desk and a chair and you can leave your computer there every night, or they have actual private offices. And so currently right now, at 8 something, I'm here right now because it's accessible 24/7 and it's secure. You have to have a little keypad, pin number thingy, whatever, to get in. But yeah, so I'm here using one of their conference rooms, and it has been a blessing because, again, once I drop my kids off in the morning to school, I literally treat this place as my job. So I come to the place, the office place, and I sit here and I just constantly work in between me doing one of my second to last classes and my dissertation at the same time. I just come here every day, Monday through Friday. And if I miss a weekday, then I come on the weekend. And so it does take discipline to be able to do that as well.
Well, it sounds like you really just have it together. Like you figured out what works for you, right?
Right, right.
And you making it work. And I
Yeah.
know, I have to say you've been an inspiration for me throughout the years because, from the time I remember you talking about wanting to go for your doctorate degree. Ambika is my bestie for those of you who do not know. We worked together at the community college, and we were both talking about going for the doctorate degree. And Ambika did it first. Now we both had applications in, and I was accepted, but I didn't take that leap. And I think a lot of it was because of my family, right? And I didn't have the support of my husband at the time, and I had really little ones, and it was just a lot going on. But just watching Ambika throughout the years, she just made it seem like, you know what, wow, I can do this because I saw you go through some of the challenges, but I also saw you overcome a lot of those challenges. And so even in these last couple of weeks, I'm one more week for my class. I've called Ambika a couple of times, like, hey, I'm ready to pull my hair out. And one of the things that you said to me was one assignment at a time, one post at a time. Don't look at, the entire syllabus. You look at the syllabus, of course, but don't look at it as a whole, like I have to do all of these things. Just complete that assignment, get it done, do the best you can do. And then that you passed, you did it, you made it work, and then go on to the next. And I've taken that advice, and it has made this journey that much more, easy, or I don't know if easy is the right word, but doable.
Yes.
And so thank you for that. Thank you for that. So, Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
what is next? Tell the viewers what is next for you. And then before we go, I have to take some viewer questions because I know there's probably some questions. So what's next for you?
So what's next for me is to graduate, get my chapters approved, be able to have that signed, sealed, and delivered. Give me my doctorate and let me be out. I want to have some free time finally. So August is the expected graduation, the end of the entire program. And so after that, my goal is to actively job search. I'm not going to job search right now because again, my focus is to finish out the dissertation. And so now that I'm out of higher ed, I'm no longer in higher ed. You know, sometimes we get so caught up in our job that we forget that there's a whole world outside of whatever it is we're doing. And so now I'm rethinking and re-strategizing on where exactly I want to be at. You know, part of it is that maybe I do want to work for myself. I have the experience and I'm gonna have the credentials. And so now I just need exposure. You know, the reality is the internet is a pathway to any and everything, right? And at some point, it only takes one person to give you a shot. It only takes one opportunity or one door to lead you into just an entire different life and world. And so now I have the freedom to think beyond what I used to think about career-wise. So yes, would I want to go back in higher ed? Yes. If there's a title and there's a position that I feel I can make a difference, but also my bigger ultimate life goal is to be the U.S. Secretary of Education. I want to work.
Wait. You said that too fast. Hold up. You said it too fast. Say that again for the audience so that they can hear what you said.
For the people in the back.
For the people in the back.
So yes, I do. My lifelong goal is to be the U.S. Secretary of Education because education has been so important to my life. It changed my entire life trajectory. And so if it wasn't for education and my faith in God, that played a big part in it. But you know, when we talk about education, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here talking to you. You know, if it wasn't for education, there would be so many other places that I don't even want to think of where I could be at. I don't even want to think of what I could have been or should have. You know, right now the reality is that, you know, we need people in places that we don't normally get accepted to. You know, a lot of us people of color aren't at tables that we need to be at. And so my goal is to be at the tables that we need to be at because things are being created, policies are being created, laws are being passed that impact us, you know, people of color. And so if I plan to change the world, whether it be one life or a million, it doesn't matter. The reality is if we want change, we have to be that change. You know, we really have to work on getting there and be, like they said, if you're not at a table, bring a folding chair. You know, make space for yourself. And so that's what I plan to do. I have no idea how I'm going to become the U.S. Secretary of Education, but I know that I am. And so my faith is going to get me there, and my determination, my goals, my experience, my background, all of that added is going to get me there. It's only a matter of time. Currently, there has only been 11 U.S. Secretary of Education representatives, because it's a role that only began about 1980s, I believe. And so I don't mind being number 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I don't care. Somehow I'm going to get there, and I have the experience, I have the background, I have the resiliency and the grit to do that. And so all I can say is watch out, because I'm coming.
I absolutely love it. So I know you mentioned this before, but we have a question from the audience. Can you just say one more time? And while I'm asking Ambika this question, if you audience, please give us some more questions for Mrs. Walker. Can you tell us one more time what your doctorate degree is in?
So my doctorate degree it's a Doctor of Management in Community College Policy and Administration.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions? I am looking. You got a lot of comments. You got a lot of yes. You got a lot of let's go. You got, oh, wow. You got all kind of thumbs up. Thank you so much, audience. We really appreciate it. You got a yes, indeed. So it sounds like you are truly encouraging some rising eagles tonight. And we just thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to check and see. Let's see. Anybody type anything in? Let's see. All right. I don't think I see any more questions. So some encouraging words, some last minute words, Mrs. Walker. There may be somebody thinking right now, should I go for that PhD, doctorate degree, EDD? Should I go for the master's? Should I go for the back? Should I go back and go for my associate's degree? I only got a GED. I just got the GED. Should I go? Should I do it? What are some final words? And you said a lot tonight. And so, but what are some final words that you can say to that person that is on the edge of the seat, but need to get up and go put in that application? What can you say to that person?
I have a few things to say to you. Yeah, you right there. First of all, disengage from doing harm to yourself by overthinking and outthinking yourself. That is a serious issue. You have to separate yourself from that. That is something called analysis paralysis. I was watching a show the other day. I very rarely get to watch TV. And the businessman talked about analysis paralysis. So what did I do? As a researcher, I go look it up. It literally says, it's a symptom where you just outthink yourself. How many times, Yolanda, and to the people that's watching, we have outthought or overthought something that we were about to do, and then we didn't do it. And so the hardest thing to do when you're talking about getting whether it be a certificate, whether it be associate's, bachelor's, a master's, doctorate, doesn't matter. The hardest thing to do is sign up and enroll or take that first step, go to that first class, walk into the building. After that, you've done the hardest part. So don't outthink yourself. Don't get beside yourself, disengage from that. That was really important. That was something that really, limited me for a long time. The other thing is just get out of your own way. Going back to that overthinking stuff, just move out of your own way. You're gonna limit yourself. So take a risk. Successful people take risks, and we can't calculate every single move. I'm a person that I like to know what I'm doing next, and I want to control certain things, because I've become, all of a sudden from being a person who didn't care about whatever to now I'm this person that care about every single thing and what I do or what I don't do. Sometimes I need to get out of my own way. Sometimes even me, myself, I limit myself on doing multiple things. And then the last thing is whatever needs to be done, you're the one to do it. Whatever needs to be done, you're the one to do it. And I'm gonna say that again. Whatever needs to be done, you're the one to do it. To do it. No one else can do that for you. You have to do it. You have to take the first step. Don't let other people come into your life and tell you any different. Don't let someone who doesn't have what you have or what you're about to get come in your life and stop you from going down that path that you need to go. You have people, so many people looking up to you that you don't even know that's looking up to you, that you need to make that next move. And so that would be my thing to you, is that just get out of your way. Stop overthinking things and just do it.
I absolutely love everything you said. You gave some really, really good nuggets. So let's see, Miss Walker said, and I wrote it down. Don't overthink. Get out of your own way, and whatever you need to do or get whatever you need to be done, you are the one to do it.
Yes.
Whatever you need to be done, you are the one to do it. So listening audience, take those things and whatever you need to do to get off that seat and take that next step to, like, Mrs. Walker said, go for that associate's, a certificate program. You may start with a certificate. That's fine too. And then you may decide to continue and go on like Ambika did. She went from the associates, bachelor's, master's. She took that 3-year break, and then she's almost done. You said, what is it, August? 9 more months or so?
3-year
and you'll
program.
be, wow, awesome. And you'll be done with your doctorate degree. And I clearly remember when you just started, it seemed like it was yesterday. And look at where you are now. Wow, this is just awesome. So you have to promise me that you're gonna come back and have a sit down with me when you graduate.
Yeah.
And when you cross that stage, and yeah, we have to have that. We have to have that graduation talk. And so, because then at that point, I'm gonna be calling you Doctor.
Right. Officially.
Dr. Walker. This has been awesome. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you sitting down. This has been great. We have, I see our audience, and they've been definitely. I can tell they have totally enjoyed.
Thank you all.
You sharing your story. This has been a wonderful time, well spent. And I just believe that somebody is going to be encouraged. Someone has been encouraged. So thank you to our listening audience. Thank you, Rising Eagles. Everyone, just have a great night. And I will see you again in a couple of weeks. And we'll have another Rising Eagles ready to tell their stories. And we want you to tune in again. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye-bye.